improve public transit. Everyone who uses public transit is a pedestrian before and after they get on the bus, and so we wanted to make sure that was incorporated in our planning. This map shows the breadth of the plan in terms of all of our project areas. We broke the pedestrian plan into 5 buckets of project types. So the first of which is the red shapes with the black hatching. Those are our pedestrian priority areas. Those are areas of town that are primed for walkability. They may have great, the street grid may be really tight and have lots of good land uses that people want to walk to, but the infrastructure may be missing. Especially in these areas, public transit is a high priority. So you'll notice over 23rd and Classen or over Northwest Expressway up around 63rd and May. These are locations where the new BRT route is going, and so we wanted to make sure that we were ahead of the game using the fixed guideway study that had been completed in the past, and pedestrian infrastructure is key to making sure these projects that we do in our existing transit are successful. We also had projects specific for downtown. Then we had specific projects for transit, and we identified 20 transit priority areas around the city, and then access to parks and access to schools as well. So the pedestrian priority areas and the transit priority areas are 2 areas I'm going to discuss because those are most relevant to public transit. And I kind of talked about the PPAs, that's what we call them, a little bit, but we really wanted to focus on 3 things. So the existing infrastructure, to make sure that any projects we have take advantage of that. We're not building sidewalks that don't connect to our existing infrastructure. We wanted to look at demand, so things that generate pedestrian activities such as public transit stops, grocery stores, healthcare facilities, government facilities. And then we wanted to look at responsive populations, and that's a directive from Plan OKC, our comprehensive plan. And in this case, that would be people who are likely to walk, so people who don't have access to car, people in poverty, the elderly, children, people with disabilities, and really try to focus on meeting those needs. For the transit priority areas, we generated a list of criteria, worked with Cotpa staff to identify those, and that helped us prioritize which bus stops were the highest priority for pedestrian improvements. And rather than, there's more than 1,300 transit stops in the city, rather than rank them all individually and say, well, we're going to do sidewalks at bus stop number 575, we took a more general approach and looked at areas where there were densities of bus stops and that were high priority, and that's how we identified those areas. So this is the funding breakdown of sidewalks from the Better Streets, Safer Cities sales tax, and this allocation is a recommendation from Bike Walk OKC, with more than half of the funds going into these pedestrian priority areas, 15% going to schools, 10% to parks and transit, and then 5% for downtown. So that results in $2.4 million from the sales tax going directly to transit improvement sidewalk projects. And this map shows between the bond and the sales tax in red all of the sidewalks that we've gotten approved, and the blue are obviously transit stops. And so we're looking at potentially more than 100 miles of new sidewalks that will improve access to more than 250 bus stops. So that's just out of this program. So again, this is the map of the transit priority locations, and I'm going to talk about which ones we've gotten funded, and we'll go into that. So there are 10 of them that we think are likely to be funded through the sales tax, depending on once we get engineers' estimates of our proposals for the ones that have already been approved. And so that kind of stretches across the city. Geographic distribution was something that the board, the Community and Neighborhood Enhancement Advisory Board, wanted us to prioritize. And so we selected these locations in conjunction with access to parks and access to schools projects, and really tried to kind of spread the wealth around the city. So these.
John, let me ask you a question talking about the sidewalks.
Yes.
How did you plan, where are the sidewalks, what do they connect to? I mean, I know the bus, but to the neighborhood, or is it completed down the street where sidewalks are, or how's that determined? That's
an excellent question. So with public transit in particular, we want to make sure there's sidewalks on both sides of the street that have public transit on them. There are bus stops on both sides of the street, and then connecting them to the the nearest destinations that make a lot of sense. I'm going to go through kind of zoom-in maps on these 5, and I can kind of talk about what we were thinking on each of those. Yeah. So the first one is Classen at Belle Isle. And so Route 5, which is, the last time I looked, our busiest transit route, maybe Route 23 has overtaken that by this point. There's no sidewalk connection from Classen to the south up to Classen Curve to the north, and so our proposal is to come in and put sidewalks along Classen Boulevard to connect transit riders and anyone who's walking in the area to the Belle Isle Shopping Center. You've got Walmart and Bed Bath & Beyond. You've got all sorts of things there, and a high amount of ridership is looking to go shopping, and this will help facilitate that. The second one is Main and Linwood, and I know that there was a recent transit change. I don't have the updated transit routes, but I've been working with Chip to figure out what our approach needs to be on this one. So we've got the day shelter for, I believe, the Homeless Alliance right there on Virginia, and that was some direct feedback we got when we were adopting the plan from the public was we need to increase pedestrian access here, and considering there are 3 transit routes in this vicinity, Route 7, 8, and 9, that made a lot of sense to us. And I believe now the bus goes directly up Virginia and provides access to the day shelter. And so we're going to make sure that we have sidewalks that make that connection. The next one is South May and Southwest 44th, and we've got Route 12 that comes through this area. This is an area with a kind of a key shopping area in the district. There's a lot of residential density in this location, and a lot of people, lower income households, and so this one rose to the top based on our criteria. Kelly and 36th on the northeast side. This is one with Route 3 going through there. This intersection is a tough one to manage in an automobile. It's even tougher as a pedestrian. And with a lot of the new development that's been going on the northeast side, we have a new grocery store in that shopping center right there. And so we wanted to kind of achieve multiple things here by, putting sidewalks along the transit route, but also connecting the public housing facility to the grocery store, to the intersection there. So we know that there's a need there that we're going to be able to fill. And additionally, we're looking at going up Spring Lake to connect into the adjacent neighborhoods as well.
John?
Are the blue lines, is that the sidewalks?
No, that's the transit route. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not showing the sidewalks because we haven't decided
okay.
officially what those are going to be.
Red squares are bus stops.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry for not having a legend. Yeah. James? Yeah.
That was it.
Okay.
Thanks.
And then the last one I'm showing today is North Rockwell and Northwest 10th, and this is at the confluence of Route 38 and Route 23. This is a location where we actually have quite a bit of pedestrian automobile collisions. We've had several fatalities in the area, so that helped rise this up. There's apartments that are along this street and people going to the intersection where maybe a gas station is, convenience stores, and there's been some pretty terrible stories coming out of this area, so we're hoping that we can come in and help, provide some infrastructure that may reduce those outcomes. And that's the update I have for you. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
John, first, I just want to say, my God, I am so proud of what you all are doing. This is great, and I hear it all the time out there when I've been knocking doors. This is long overdue, decades. So good job, really great job, and way to plan this too. So on that question of planning, when you and I spoke about this a few weeks ago, and you showed me where everything was going, when I've been knocking doors, some people will ask me, and it's weird, it's so weird, you all, because sometimes someone will say something like, I love these sidewalks, this is great. Other times, they'll say stuff like, this woman went on about it. Why is there a sidewalk in the neighborhood? It should be over here on, Meridian. And so I'm kind of curious what I need to be saying to folk, like, in terms of the decisions we're making, like, why sometimes, there's kind of a two-part here. Why sometimes we do a sidewalk on one side of the street first, within a neighborhood, right? And then two, when we choose to put it within the neighborhood before we do on one of the major arterial streets. But also keeping in mind, I'm aware that, like, when I look at, Pennsylvania, there is a new sidewalk along an arterial street, or Southeast 59th by my middle school. So what can I be saying? What's going on here?
So that all stems from different funding sources. So the '07 bond, sidewalks are built with all resurfacings on one side of the road. So whether it's an arterial resurfacing or a residential resurfacing. Residential projects don't necessarily include the arterial. An arterial project obviously does. The residential resurfacing is going to go in and put a sidewalk on every street in the neighborhood that they resurface. The MAPS 3 program only did sidewalks on arterials. So these are different funding streams. Bike Walk OKC kind of tries to do a little bit of both and do them coherently. So an arterial and neighborhood streets would go in at the same time. So we would say, so for example, one of our pedestrian priority area projects is on Classen. We're going to go in and fill in all the gaps on Classen, but we're also going to extend some of those sidewalks out into the neighborhood so nearby residents can actually access the walkable areas that we're creating. So I would just, that's what I would say.
Thanks, John.
All right. Any other questions? All right, John, thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any citizens to be heard? If not, I would have a motion to approve our minutes of our November 2nd meeting. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. 3 items on the consent docket. I think a couple of them are more for transparency, but let Jason just briefly give a little explanation of those, and then we can take a vote.
Yes, so items A and B on the agenda, are essentially just items that will allow us to be able to adapt quickly to any unforeseen requirements associated with Oklahoma City streetcar as we kind of enter this final week and preparing for service, and then even on into revenue service. So what we're asking the trust to consider is just the authorization to spend up to $100,000 for any necessary supplies, equipment, labor that might be needed to just, again, address the potential of unforeseen issues as we get into streetcar operations. And again, the idea of going to the trust ahead of time for that authorization is so that we, as a transit agency, can react as quickly as we possibly can, especially if there's a safety item that we need to address right away.
All right, thank you. Any questions? Then I'd have a motion to receive our consent docket.
So moved.
All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Items for individual consideration. I guess, what's legal? Jill, do we take a vote on item G to move it to the end of the program before we get into all the individual items? I think that's how we normally do it. All right, so I would have a motion to move item G to the end of our program, and it takes a voice vote. So
I would move approval of moving it to the end of the docket.
all right.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Item A is to receive the consultant's review committee report on our parking study in the CBD. So, and then item B, I think Corey's going to discuss each of items A and B. So,
good morning.
good morning.
Very excited about this parking study. This study will include the areas bordered by Northwest 13th, Classen on the west, I-235 on the east, and then Southwest 3rd on the south. The study will examine, do a full inventory of on-street parking assets and off-street parking assets in that boundary area, public and private. We'll get a quantity of spaces, rates, who operates, who owns those facilities. And then they will, it'll help us figure it. The study will include providing us with a demand of those, demand of parking, holding into account future growth and redevelopment projects throughout the area. Task 3 will include recommendations for those two for the future. This study will provide us recommendations for 5 years out, 10 years, 15, and 20. obviously, we'll probably have to revisit the longer-term predictions, but and then it will also look at management techniques, improving circulation and traffic, to include the streetcar, goal being to park once and take care of your business downtown. It will also look at technology, and then the last item included zoning, but that was just to take a look at zoning and land uses, but we will be negotiating that item out of the contract as it was first, it was reviewed just 2 years ago. Any questions?
No, not on item A, so.
I'd move approval of item A.
Second. All in favor? Opposed? All right, motion carries. Okay, item B, then, Corey.
This is we're asking for permission to adopt a resolution allowing the chairman or vice chairman to approve an operating agreement between the purchasers and Cotpa after signing of the sale of the Santa Fe garage. The purchasers have asked Cotpa to continue managing that garage. The goal here is to, we will manage it just as we have been managing it, minus transient parking. The purchaser has decided not to do transient parking in the Santa Fe garage. So we'll continue managing the monthly parking and special event parking as is noted in the purchase agreement.
But there is special event parking in the garage.
Yes. There will be, as of yesterday, we will provide special event parking for a combination of events or a single event that exceeds an estimated attendance of 5,000 people. So we will not be managing event parking in the Santa Fe garage for a little 200 estimated person event. There'll be 5,000 or more. This will allow the purchaser to educate themselves, provide a smooth transition, and provide them an opportunity to investigate managing the facility internally or outsourcing it, along with looking at equipment. What will take place from a financial reporting background is everything from the Cotpa side will remain exactly as is. After those after the monthly reports are vetted, we will copy all of the Santa Fe documents, provide it to the purchaser plus 5%. So the purchaser will pay all of our costs plus 5%.
Okay.
Questions?
Then I'd have a motion to approve item B.
So moved.
All in favor? Opposed? All right, thank you, Corey. Item C is approval of contract with HMS Ferries. Oh, Jenny's going, okay. I think you're going to do the next two items, maybe.
Could be.
Okay.
Good morning. As you know, HMS Ferries has been managing and operating our ferry system since 2007, when we first began the system. This last time around, we put it out for bid. We actually reached out to several up-and-coming and other types of management companies to get the bid in. Through negotiation with HMS Ferries, they have decided to reduce their management fee, which will be a help for us. We'll be able to offer more service, and eliminated the Charter Commission. The Charter Commission was instituted in 2014 in an effort to grow more charter business. Unfortunately, the availability of charters is limited primarily because people just want to go Friday and Saturday night in good weather. So that's about 100 charters a year, and that's about what they do. So given that there's really limited opportunity to grow that area, they agreed to drop the Charter Commission. So this will save us some funding on our budget so that we can hopefully produce some more revenue-generating types of operations. One of the reasons we enjoy having HMS Ferries is their safety management system that they developed. It's a requirement of FTA. It is not necessarily a requirement for the marine industry, but theirs has actually been endorsed and certified by the Marine Industry Oversight. Also, over the past 10 years, they've grown some stability in their management teams and their staffing. I just feel like they've done a wonderful job in improving the operation and continuing to provide safety and an enjoyable experience for our ferry and specialty and charter customers.
You sure it's been 10 years?
2007.
Okay. All right. Any questions on item C? Then I'd have a motion to approve. All in favor? Opposed? All right, thank you. And then item D.
For item D, this past summer, we took a look at what our Spokies riders were doing on our bicycles. A lot of our riders are single riders. They're visitors to the downtown area, either from out of state or outside downtown Oklahoma City. That's the majority. It's about 83% of our riders are people that don't live and work downtown. And what we find is they'll check out the bike for $350, but then they'll ride it for more than just that 30-minute ride or that 1-hour ride, and then they call and say, hey, I was charged $9. Why was I charged $9? So we tested out an Explorer's Pass, which lets you ride it for 3 hours, which seems to be what people want to do. Costs the same, but you don't have that phone call coming back later saying, hey, I thought it was $350. This way they know up front it's $9. Incidentally, that's about $1 less than a scooter ride for an hour, just throwing that in there.
Competition. All right. Do I have a motion to approve item D?
Move the item.
All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Jenny. Item E is a board of contract for public relations contract. So I guess, Jason, you're going to address this.
Sure. I can talk about this one for a few minutes. So, yeah, this is an award of a contract to Staple Gun for public relations. Annual estimated expenditure of $118,000. With approval of the contract, we're looking at entering into a 5-year term with Staple Gun. And as you'll recall, Staple Gun also assists us with our marketing and web development services. So you'll notice there in your memo in the background, we actually advertised RFPs back in August. We had 5 proposals. We ended up interviewing 3. I know Trustee Bickham served on that selection committee. And through the selection process, it was determined that Staple Gun was the winning proposer. They will actually sub to Cook Communications. And with approval of this item, again, we'll enter into a 5-year agreement through 2023.
All right. Any questions? Not, then I hear a motion to approve item E.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Item F is adopt a resolution authorizing service changes as presented in the November 2nd public hearing on a good number of our routes. So,
Yeah. Yeah, so this
detail
is our,
you want to get into this, but
yeah, so you'll see all the routes listed there in the opening paragraph on the memo. But yeah, this is a big change. This is a huge improvement for our service as we look at entering into providing Sunday service beginning in January. And with approval of this item, that will officially set that in motion. You know, as we work through any type of additions to routes or changes to routes, we always have a thorough public process, and this one was no different. We had 2 community meetings back in October. Last month we had our public hearing. Really overall we've received nothing but support and positive feedback about these additions. I would mention, if you want to take a look in your packet, in addition to the resolution, and I'm sure you noticed, is all the kind of the backup material that we use for our public meetings and providing public notice, and it's really a pretty robust process that we use. So anyway, with that, we will move forward and begin Sunday service in January.
All right. Any questions by any of the trustees? Then I'll have a motion to approve item F.
Move approval.
All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Our next item is ratification of claims and payroll. If there are no questions by any of the trustees, then I'd hear a motion to ratify that. All in favor? Opposed? All right, thank you. Financial reports. Jason, if there's any particular items on the financials that you'd like to make mention or clear up.
Yeah, there's a couple of items need to share with the trustees. If you look at page 2 of your budget to actual for the 4 months ending October 31st, this is our transit operations budget to actual. I would just direct your attention to the revenues. You'll notice that our fare box revenue continues to perform less than what we had anticipated, so we're actually about $89,000 less fare box collections than what we had expected. You can see part of that is offset by some of our miscellaneous revenue, particularly interest. And then the other one I would direct your attention to, actually 2 revenue lines there on the federal grants. You'll notice we're just about where we estimated we would be with our federal grants. I think I'd mentioned this last month. We are going to be hitting a time period in November. Well, we did hit the time period in November where we're actually kind of between grants. So you see the next financial, you'll see that we're under budget on federal grant revenue, and then once we begin drawing on that new grant, we'll get caught back up. So it's really just a timing issue on our reimbursements. And then on the state, the funding we receive from the state, we typically don't receive that until December, and we have it budgeted accordingly. With the expenses, you can see we have savings in both our personnel expenses and our supplies. We do have some overages in fuel and then our other services and fees, nothing that's alarming or unmanageable. I would direct your attention to the operating income line. Through the 4 months ending October, we actually do have our expenses slightly in excess of the revenues. But again, once that payment from the state comes in, it will more than offset that roughly $42,000 variance that you see there.
Question, Jason, is the state subsidy, is it earmarked or is it just for general operating expenses?
Primarily for elderly transportation for the elderly and those with disabilities. So we use it to offset a lot of our paratransit costs. So there are
somewhat earmarked for
somewhat, yeah. And then on page, and I should say capital too. We could use it for capital. And then on page 3, this is our parking operations. And again, just as I mentioned before, through the fiscal year, our monthly contract revenue continues to perform under target. That's due to losing a significant customer in our Santa Fe parking garage. Again, as I've mentioned, once that garage, the sale is finalized, we'll be looking at our budget again and bringing back an amendment to the trust, with the Santa Fe garage really out of that revenue and expenditure stream. But if you look at the total operating income with that revenue underperforming, we're still about $1.2 million ahead in terms of revenues exceeding expenditures. And then the next page here is our river cruises operations. Just direct your attention to the general fares. Through October, we do show to be about $11,000 under budget. We would anticipate and hope that as the season starts back up in the spring that we're able to make up some of that ground on the revenue, but we'll just have to see. Through the 4 months of the fiscal year, our operating revenues exceed our operating income by about $156,000. But again, you'll notice that we have drawn over half of that subsidy from the general fund at the beginning of the year. So as we go through the fiscal year, we'll see that operating income surplus begin to shrink. Spokie's operations, not a lot of comments on there other than just to point out the bike share revenue actually includes our sponsorships, our anticipated sponsorships, and the revenue generated from the system. The reason we're underperforming on budget is because we do not have sponsorships yet for the Spokie's bike share program, although we continue to remain optimistic, and we'll continue to work on that, particularly through Houck Advertising, the firm that's helping us with our transit advertising and sponsorships overall. And then just finishing up on streetcar operations, again, I'll probably direct your attention to the expenditure lines, the streetcar operation expenditure line, where we have our original budget estimated at about $2.8 million through 4 months of the fiscal year. I'm sorry, we have $2.8 million for the entire fiscal year. Only about $143,000 of actual expenditures have hit through 4 months. Again, I just wanted to point out that this is a timing issue. We actually only have one invoice reflected in that line for the fiscal year. We have since then paid at least 2 more, so you'll see that number change pretty significantly next month when we look at our financials. So I'll be glad to answer any other questions.
All right. Any questions by any of the trustees? Then I'd hear a motion to receive our financial reports.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? All right, thank you. Our program reports, streetcar report. It's getting close.
Very close. Yes, good morning.
Morning.
Happy December. Hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving. So it is December 2018. It's a big month for us. So we are right around the corner from going into revenue service. Also, this is my 2-year anniversary of presenting to you all. It's a big deal, yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, right, thanks.
2 years seems like yesterday.
Tell me about it, yeah, it really did, yeah. So let's hop into it here. So this first slide here is actually, it's our hype video. Michael and his group have put together this video. If you haven't seen it, for a real treat, it's pretty awesome. We're actually getting the opportunity to present this during some of the Thunder games, and then Michael and his group are also going to be at the concourse at the I believe it's Monday's game. If you make it by, you'll also be in for an awesome surprise there. I won't give it away, but make sure you check out the booth. It's pretty cool. Thanks. So I can't follow that up, so I'm done. No, I'm kidding. We're super excited about that video. It's just crazy good.
Well, I hate to admit that I do remember the streetcars going down Classen as a child. So you're going back 70 years since we've had them, so I do remember that.
Yeah.
Maybe the only one up here that does.
Yeah, well, you know, they're a little different now,
Yes.
but yeah, they're definitely pretty cool. One more time, no. So we continue to have our committee meetings that we've been doing. We've upped those again to we're actually meeting 3 times a week now. It's a bit of a crunch time right now, so we're actually meeting 3 times a week with these committees. We continue working with the MAPS department to provide information to our SSOs, and then we, from this picture here, you can see we provided volunteer training for our opening day events. Had great turnout at that training. We got Megan up there leading the charge of that training there. So pretty excited. It's kind of a neat toy. Sorry, I got to get used to it. So we continued to provide track access training for all contractors that are planning to work on or around the streetcar alignment. Basically, anyone that plans to do any work along the streetcar alignments, whether it's close to the track, off the sides of the track, on their private property, we request that they would come by and give us access training, just so that everyone can be safe when they're working around the streetcar alignment. The last thing we want is someone, the streetcars are super quiet. The last thing we want is someone have their back to the streetcar and actually step out in front of it or anything like that or get hurt. So we continue to have these track access training classes. They happen they're scheduled every Thursdays at 9 a.m. We've had nearly all of OG&E come to our track access training, so huge progress there. We're also having other franchisees, utility companies come by, get that access training, and also people that are doing work along the alignment. So again, Embark, Maps, OKC, we continue to develop and plan our opening day events. What we've got planned is pretty exciting. So it's going to be a pretty exciting week next week. If you see me and I'm walking around, look like I'm in a haze, you know why. So we also, Embark, Herzog Transit, we continue to work with special events. We're working with Drew. Anytime someone comes in and they're trying to request a special event permit along the streetcar alignment, we make sure that they have the correct information, making sure that their event won't be shutting down service, because that's the last thing we want is to stop service. So we're continuing to work with all the organizations to make that happen. And we've actually had the opportunity to, while we're running our simulated service, to operate in some of those special events that have happened. So we're pretty excited there. One of the events is the Downtown December. So we've been operating, through Sheridan whenever all the crowds are going on, working with OCPD, Lieutenant George, really helping us out there and making sure that we can still maintain service. And then also Thunder Alley. We've operated through Thunder Alley several times now. So November 30th, we began our simulated service. This is one of our requirements with our SSO. So what that means is we're out there running the streetcars just like we will when we begin revenue service. So we're starting at 6 a.m. Monday through Thursday, ending at midnight, and then Fridays and Saturdays starting at, Fridays 6 a.m. to 2 a.m., and Saturdays 7 a.m. to 2 a.m. And then also running the Bricktown Loop just like we will during revenue hours. Good news, we're fully staffed. Here is our group. It's I can't speak more highly of the group that we've got. They are just working nonstop, and they're working well together. Everyone's very, very excited, and they all get it. They get what we're doing here and how exciting it is to be part of the Oklahoma City streetcar, bringing the streetcar back to Oklahoma City, and just everyone's walking around with a smile on their faces. It's pretty awesome to be a part of it. Also good news, everyone is trained, fully trained. So we wanted to make sure that everyone had all of the training, safety training, maintenance training, operations training before we went into revenue service. That's happened. So everyone that's out there operating, they are operating by themselves. They're also fully trained, so we don't have a supervisor in the cab with them out there operating. So very good news there. So construction, so there are a few construction items still left, mostly punch list items. So there's a few punch list items left in Bricktown, and then also in the downtown area. Those are getting wrapped up. And then vehicle number 7, it has been named. It is the Pink Panther.
It's called what?
Pink Panther. So Pink Panther has arrived. It arrived on November 13th. We're happy to have vehicle number 7. There we go. Slide showing all vehicles have arrived. Vehicle number 7 was accepted at City Council this past Tuesday. So pretty exciting. Everything's just falling into place like it's supposed to. That's it. Kept it short and sweet. Any questions?
Would remind everybody about next Friday, where they're dress up, show up, and shut up, and just be on your best behavior. So.
That's right. December 14th, 10 a.m., right out here at Leadership Square, the business district stop. It's going to be an exciting time.
But the photo shoot is at 8 o'clock.
That starts at 8. Yeah.
Okay.
Good stuff.
So all the trustees and council need to be there at 8 o'clock. Well, you're at work that early. You'll just walk over. So.
Yeah, I would just say, too, to Jesse and to Jason and all their team, just all the great work that they've done. And I know there's still a ways to go, but they've been putting in a lot of extra hours, and really do appreciate the dedication and the commitment to this. Great work.
Happy to do it. I love it. I appreciate it.
And then, Jesse, I know you're a film guy. If you really want to reach the kids, tell them that Pink Panther is related to this thing called Black Panther. And they will show up in droves, I promise, I swear to you.
No doubt, no doubt. They do, yeah. They're all kind of cartoon character names. We've got like Kermit, like the green one. The green one's Kermit. It's internal names.
Hey, Jesse, the video showed a person bringing their bicycle onto the streetcar. Is that going to be allowed?
Absolutely, yeah. The streetcars have 2 hooks for the bikes, but they're also that center section. You can bring your bike onto that center section.
Great, thank you.
You bet.
Any other questions? All right, Jesse, thank you.
Thank you.
Long-range planning, Larry?
Well, good morning.
Morning.
It's great to have a chance to be here today to talk about what's happening in long-range planning. We got some exciting news. Santa Claus, the guy on my tie here, kind of got to Oklahoma City a little early this year. He's still coming back December 25th, I'm sure. Hey, I've got 2 items I'm supposed to report on today. Just like in recent years, report on the national election trends for transit, and then to give a little update on the Northwest VRT project. So, I wanted you to know that we get this data through the American Public Transportation Association. We look at it and try to sift through it and figure it out. Basically, there were 15 states in America that had some type of a transit ballot initiative in 2018. There were 36 different elections, and there was like 83% of them actually did pass. What's kind of interesting is this year, about 12 of them, about a third of them, are really to extend an existing tax, and of the different types. When you think about property tax, sales tax, this year about half of them were really about property tax initiatives, property tax ballots. And, there are a couple of measures that were pending. The thing is that, like in a lot of cities, there might be 4 suburbs in a metropolitan area voting on the very same initiative. And so if you just sort of turn it into campaigns, it might really not be 36, it may be more like 24 different ones. But still, most of them did really well. And aside from property tax and sales tax, there were some that were for bonds, some that were for tolls, some for fuel taxes and the like. And that 83% rate I mentioned, a little bit less than last year, but more than the other years. Typically, when a city or region's ready for a transit election, they appear to pass. If you kind of break it down again by the types of ballot measures, when you look at the 36, basically almost half of them, as you see in that kind of part of the lower left, were basically property tax types of votes, and so we'll see what happens in 2018. A lot of the ones that came out actually had their elections back in November, and of course, locally, people are dreaming big. There might be an Oklahoma City transit-related tax initiative next year as well, depending upon the plans for MAPS 4. So I'm going to kind of shift gears for a moment here and talk a little bit about this Northwest BRT project. You all know about the news about the grant from yesterday, and definitely that's big news. And in the case of Embark, we didn't do it all alone. We had help from the Planning Department and Public Works, and 25, and I've got a set of them here, 25 different letters of support from private companies, from different types of merchant associations, and some nonprofits and the like. And this time it worked, and so a lot to be grateful for there, and we're definitely pumped about it. And you all know the basics about this sort of a route. The idea that it starts downtown, goes out to Meridian and Northwest Expressway and back, rapid transit, basically bus rapid transit, a type of bus service that really hadn't been seen here before. So where we're at in this process is trying to get through the federal environmental clearance. If you want to spend federal money, then you need to make sure that you've really crossed your T's, dotted your I's, and have a lot of specifics that you've addressed. And so, I want you to think, when you think about environmental, really think specificity, not so much about wildlife or clean creeks or whatever. It's really a lot more about getting specific, thinking about historic properties along the route, thinking about environmental justice concerns, and a variety of other things. In the case of this, things like park and ride lots become an environmental issue, and especially it's important to figure out, is the project we're talking about completely in the right-of-way? We think it is. We hope it is. Are there places where we may need to buy a sliver, a foot-wide bit of frontage, or 5 or 10 feet? And, we're actually working closely with our consultants on this. We have the firm of H&TB. You have Tim here on your left, and Danny O'Connor with Half on the right. And we're really leaning on their expertise in terms of doing these types of projects around the country. You already know a lot about the elements of BRT. Again, it's really buses acting more like rail, there's a lot of these types of systems have the longer bus with the idea of having more elbow room. And even though we had a lot of public involvement a couple of years ago, this past month we basically had our technical team go out and do a tour of the corridor on a bus, and I think that was very, very helpful. The types of conversation you have. And then we spent the whole day at an Embark conference room about a week ago, and that face-to-face and that synergy that develops with those discussions really helpful because we're trying to get this process wrapped up by spring. Well, in terms of historic properties, instead of looking all over the place, you focus in on a small area, and that's close to properties that are considered historic, like the Gold Dome or the Townley Milk Bottle Building, to try to get a sense of, well, what's the area of potential effect in terms of, what can you see from it, what do you see at and near the stops, and things of that sort, effects on historic properties. And so that's one of the things that gets addressed. And, I should just kind of point out kind of a transit geek thing, and that is, just like with streetcar, you're aiming for level boarding. And so streetcar's on a track, so, you should be able to get very, very close to the platform. How do you do that with a bus? And so these give you some pictures of level boarding with BRT vehicles. And that bottom right one kind of gives you a hint of how these can be done. A lot of times you'll design that platform to where it has kind of a curb just at the edge of the platform that's a soft enough curve that as the bus operator pulls up, they can sort of feel on the steering wheel if they're close enough. And so, it's not exactly magic, but it works pretty well. There's some higher tech ways of doing it, but that was an interesting thought that H&TB had suggested to us. We're talking about this treatment of not strictly bus lanes, but probably the prospect of some type of a bus access and right turn lane, and we're continuing to kind of work along on that. So, you might wonder, well, what are the next steps? We're already reaching out to the likely park and ride partners. We really need one out there at Northwest Expressway and Meridian Avenue, and we've had some preliminary discussions with the Oakland City Water Utilities Trust. We'll see where that goes. There seems to be some prospect of collaboration there. But we've also got to look at some of the other major private landowners out that way, and probably only 3 or 4 park and ride locations that we propose to lease, potentially buy, but lease is a lot easier. And we've still got some follow-up with the other collaborating departments like Planning and Public Works, some of the ones that are with the state like ODOT and the State Historic Preservation Office. And a lot of documentation is being taken care of through the help of our consultants. And, sometime probably in early February, something like that, there'll be a public open house. We can take all these different ideas, these very specific locations, take them back out to the community for some additional input, and then take it into the Federal Transit Administration. And, since the build grant's been approved, it becomes even more important to get the environmental process done so we can go ahead and move into preliminary engineering. So I hope that gives you a little sense of the project. What an exciting day.
David?
Larry, would you be able to give us some details about the grant? I believe it's $14 million. So what will those funds be used for? Is it just the construction of the various stops, or, as you were mentioning, will this require a separate, not separate, but a special type of bus to be utilized? So just a little bit, and then what's the total anticipated cost of having this bus rapid transit?
The project cost is $28.8 million, and, really, when you think about who else was really responsible, back on September 12th of 2017, the citizens voted funds that basically help make about half of, that make up the city's match, our $14.4 million. And the city's funds basically would pay for the buses and some other types of improvements. And, whether it's the 40-foot bus or the longer bus, that's really part of what we need to kind of work through in this next couple of months from a technical standpoint. And it's a very important thing to do because the platform, needs to be able to accommodate the length of bus that's appropriate. But, what are the funds going to be used for? Well, there's a lot of, not only is there this need in the project to buy buses, but there's a need to create stops that resemble the streetcar stops. So that's an expense. There's a lot of technology that needs to be out there. The grant can help with that. And, we actually contemplate the prospect of changing a lot of the crossings of Northwest Expressway, whether at grade or grade separated. So, those types of things, it really helps to have, federal grant money to help do that sort of thing. And then the traffic signalization. It's not just that these buses and some of the traffic signals could be linked with traffic signal priority, but, there may need to be, some considerable traffic signal improvements. I think that, and then the parking ride lots. We're, for ones that we lease, we might still have to make some leasehold improvements, like if it's on public property. And maybe that kind of gives you a sense.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. So this may be getting way too much into the details. So with respect to the park and ride, is the plan to have the lot at the very beginning or end, however you want to refer to it, of the route, or do you bring it in a mile or two to accommodate a greater reach of potential users? And then, so that's question one. Question two, any opportunities for having some type of enhancements to those lots in terms of offering, whether it's soft drinks or something like that while people are waiting to get on the bus, or other revenue-producing
Okay. Locations of park and ride lots and the idea of concessions of sorts at these locations. Well, we had, in the concept plan, we'd always talked about having a park and ride lot at the end of the line around, Northwest Expressway and Meridian. And I kind of do need to remind you that the concept plan, for this corridor was a service that would go all the way out to Council Road, okay? So you kind of want to build something that makes it to where maybe someday you get to expand that route and have an additional park and ride. So even though there's a need for a park and ride at the end of the route, clearly there's a lot of people who might be coming in on Hefner Parkway. And so a park and ride closer to Northwest Expressway and there is also needed. So that's two. And we've had some preliminary discussions with Simon Properties, because if we put a station there, people are apt to want to park there. So what do you do to accommodate that? And I won't go into the details. And then finally, if you're living closer to downtown and you're not parking in one of our garages to hop on the BRT to go out, what do you do? And so we've looked at the prospect of having something near, maybe something small, near 23rd and Classen, so that if you wanted to park there to reverse commute out or whatever, you'd have a place where you could. So, a few places it helps a lot if you can either do these on public property or make some type of lease arrangement. And then concessions. That's a great idea. I would venture to say if you do something like that, you're probably exploring more of the vending machine approach than anything, but that's an interesting wrinkle for it.
Well, what's the hours of the BRT? Do they begin, say, at 6 a.m. and extend up to 7 or 8 p.m.?
Well, all that's going to have to be fine-tuned and right-sized. But, the concept plan was basically to have the same span of hours as streetcar, which, you saw earlier, a pretty long day, and Saturdays too, and to have a frequency, that's pretty much matches streetcar as well. It still runs on that clock face headway that's so important to you.
Okay, last question. So have you tested the time frame from downtown to the end of the route? How long does it take during, let's say, rush
Well, let's just talk Transit Center to Meridian Northwest Expressway. You know, that's one of those things that we've checked, and we're going to have to recheck here in the environmental process. You know, there's some reason to think it's pretty close to 30 minutes, okay? But is that 30 or is that 35 or what? You know, but the idea is because it's such a direct route, it takes longer than it does to drive, but having fewer stops and all the technology associated, you know, about 30 minutes is probably a pretty safe answer, but we'll have to verify that.
Larry, excuse me. First, congratulations. I know this has been something, I know we've all been a part of this, but Larry, this was something you have cared personally a lot about, and I think you deserve that recognition, man. So, seriously.
A lot of help by a lot of people. Yeah.
Of course you did. No one does anything on their own. But I just wanted to say that. Secondly, I have some questions. When I posted about this yesterday, my Facebook went through the roof. People are just so excited about this, but they have a couple questions. One of them is what kind of timeline we're looking at here for implementations. I'll start there.
You know, that's probably should let the incoming city manager answer that. I know what the build grant application says.
Well, hello, incoming city manager.
You know.
So I'm going to let Jason address that. You know, you got to pass things off, but I think, too, that the thing to keep in mind as well is we've got to start working towards the operations plan, that really what we've got in place is the path forward to get the capital in place, get it designed, get the system in place, but we've got to look at the operations plan as well to make sure that we can fund that.
Yeah, so as far as timeline, we're looking at, working on the environmental process, the design, bidding the project. That's probably going to take us through 2021. Construction will start, ideally sometime in 2021, and then be into service in 2023. So that's a rough timeline. Again, we're really early in on the process.
And then, and this might be more of a question for the board and specifically people who know the routes better. And this kind of goes on Councilman Greenwell's point. So other people are asking me already about what happens past Meridian, right, along Expressway up to Council and stuff like that. And I'm not asking to go ahead and expand BRT. We just got it, so I get that. But people are asking me about the existing bus routes that are out there along Rockwell and past Meridian along Northwest Expressway. So what do we already have to feed what will eventually become this BRT line further west of Meridian and north and south along Rockwell? And forgive me, I don't live that far out there, so I don't know exactly the routes.
You know, this thing integrates well with the existing bus network, and the Route 8 in particular meets up with this route at 63rd and Meridian and provides great service out, past MacArthur. And we really don't have bus service out at the Rockwell area. The Nelson Nygaard study contemplates, what to do. But, this is really about making one part of the city much more livable and well tied in with transit. And, finding the operating funds for other routes, et cetera, that's always going to be a challenge. And so, for now, the focus is let's do this. And, basically, planning's the start of great things. There's that look about what you'd do if you went further out the Northwest Expressway. Is there things needed in other quadrants? And we know that, too. So it's just kind of premature to try to answer questions about that. But this works well with like a third of the routes in our system because it crosses them. So it's hard to give you we can't really give you a specific answer today.
So we don't right now have a line north and south along Rockwell? I knew we had something out on Council.
Yeah, not that far north where it would intersect with the Northwest Expressway.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions? Well, thank you, Larry.
Thank you.
And we have one more program report. Our TV star is on TV all the time, so.
Occupational hazard.
Well, you're always smiling. I mean, you look good on TV. So.
Oh, thank you. That's nice. Well, good morning. Happy holidays. We're very excited, obviously, with what's coming up. And with the news yesterday, like Larry said, that was definitely a Christmas gift that we're so grateful to receive. One of the things I wanted to go ahead and just start off with was to talk to you a little bit about the sponsorships that we've got lined up for our streetcar platforms. Right now, we only have 5 left, and Houck has done a tremendous job in securing multi-year contracts to help supplement our operational expenses with the streetcar. So we have 17 committed, and you'll start seeing those graphics go up on each of the platforms, and most of those should be completed all in time for the grand opening. With that, they're also going to be participating in the grand opening celebration, and being present, being able to be part of the event is something that they were very excited about. We'll have the Memorial Museum handing out things, as well as Riverwind, all the way to Rural Sourcing, one of our latest relocation corporate headquarters downtown. They too are excited about participating in the event. Right now, on average, you're looking at a monthly revenue for each stop between $2,000 and $3,000. A minimum contract year is 3 years. Some have gone up as long as a 10-year commitment. So we've, again, I think Houck Advertising has served us well and is doing a great job. They're still trying to round out those last 5 and get those completed and sold. And at the same time, they're working on naming rights possibilities as well, which would be a much larger sponsorship and would, again, help support our streetcar system. One of the things we've been working on as well is to position ourselves to be a good neighbor with our merchants and vendors along the route and the businesses. And so we've developed a program called Love the Loops. And so people sign up, it's free to the businesses, they join this partnership, and they're agreeing to help promote positive aspects of the streetcar to their customers and be known as a Love the Loop partner. And then we've got as part of our promotions this coming year, through the end of this fiscal year, we're trying to help drive economy back into those doors and foot traffic. And so we have a Shop and Win program, and then we've kind of tinkered with it a little bit to make sure it accommodates each of the different type of service lines that we have within the streetcar system. So whether it's hotels, eateries, or even entertainment type venues. We have some contests going on to where if you shop, you upload a picture of a receipt if you're buying things within that area, and you'll be entered to win a gift card from one of the Love the Loop partners as a customer. And we'll be doing a similar approach with riders, a rider rewards program where we're trying to, again, encourage that riding population to go out, show some love to our merchants along the route, get into their stores, buy, and help support them. We definitely recognize what they've had to endure in the construction of the streetcar system, and we don't take that lightly. And so we're trying to, again, use our promotional efforts to drive business back into their front doors. Obviously, grand opening coming up, right? But I want to recognize Herzog Transit Services and Herzog Stacy Whitbeck. They are our lead sponsor for the event, making a significant contribution to the program, as well as Brookville. And then we have some smaller contributions as well. So we're grateful for their attention and partnership in this program. And we've got a lot of programming guaranteed to happen that weekend at different stops, again, to try to get people to focus on what's going on around them rather than how long they might have to wait in line to get on the streetcar. So we're expecting just large crowds, and their contributions have helped make some of that programming possible. So we're really grateful for their participation, and we really couldn't do it without them. One of the things that we've been working on the technology, and this is just one of the many things that we've been working on, and this is just the pylon at each platform. So you have 22 different digital displays with several pieces of equipment. You can see that there inside. We're having to make sure we can monitor those. As with any hardware, there's a lot of driving back and forth to each one, so there's a lot of time right now and commuting to each one to check it out. Justin here knows all too well, knows exactly where every button and cable is and those things. But what we are going to use that for is going to be so critical to the success of our system, and that's ensuring people are aware of when the next streetcar arrives, make them aware of service interruptions and or any service announcements we need to make. those digital displays will be one of the main communication points for that. So here on the very far right is an example of that display of showing the arrival times. If it's a stop that has both downtown loop and the Bricktown loop, you will see the Bricktown loop represented there in another line. And then the larger number there that you see is the first or the very next arrival time for that stop for that loop. So if you were at the business district stop, it's telling you you're going to see a streetcar in about 6 minutes. And then you should see another streetcar in about 17 minutes. And then a third streetcar in about 31 minutes. And those are all going to change dynamically based on what is going on out on the route. So at any time, someone could accidentally, I'm sure it's an accident, park over the white line, right? We all know not to park over the right line, I hope. But in the event that someone doesn't know that, we could get held up, and so those will change dynamically so that the expectation of how long you're going to wait may change. And that's where we're going to encourage you to go, pop into Clarity or Coffee Slingers or one of those places, grab you a coffee and come back to the stop. So the way we wait for transit has changed dramatically with the arrival of this type of information that we can put right in front of you. We'll also have this available for you to check on our website. So you'll be able to look before you even head out of the office to see how far out maybe the streetcar is from the stop you're going. It'll help you figure out and calculate how much walk time you need to allow and get to the streetcar stop for your next trip. Any questions maybe about that?
Yes, is it online available now, or will it be for the tracking?
We're looking probably to kick that off online after the grand opening, only because with the grand opening there's going to be so many variables with the amount of people and the amount of traffic that it really may not give us the best representation, but we'll have it available where it's just a click of a button if we want to. We do anticipate having them on the stops, though, at each platform on December 14th. And all of that, I'd be remiss to say, is made possible by U.S. Fleet Tracking. So they've partnered with us. We've had quite a bit of experience with our own bus system and the technology that's been available to us. And we decided to, after looking at that and what was possible, we reached out to our friends at U.S. Fleet Tracking, and they graciously agreed to take this project on. I mean, we're very grateful for the work they put in. They've really developed, while the equipment is pretty much standard for them, the back-end control system and the way you monitor these vehicles and providing ETA times is brand new. They're not used to doing that. I mean, most of their other systems that they do. So they've custom developed this equipment for us. And we're just so pleased with their partnership. They've remained extremely committed. They've put in many hours around the clock, literally. Troubleshooting equipment. There's a lot that goes into vehicles running in a downtown area with really tall buildings and signals bouncing off of buildings and all around, so it makes connectivity issues even that much more challenging, but they just have stuck with it and haven't given up, even though it has been a challenge. So finally, we have our site set on January 27th. And in January, we will be launching, this is a historic moment again for our organization in launching Sunday service. So we are on the cusp of finalizing campaign as well to help drive people out to that date and launch with great proclamation this great service that we're going to be kicking off. This is just a reminder a little bit about what Sunday service attributes look like. And we're, again, anticipating that you'll start seeing some of that probably shortly after the Christmas holiday time. You'll start seeing more communication pieces go out with that. And with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Is there Sunday service for the streetcar scheduled anytime during this 3-week opening period, or is it just by special event?
Yeah, during the opening period, we'll have Sunday service.
Yeah, so from 11 to 7 on Sundays we have 3 different Sundays there, I believe, that will have Sunday service scheduled and planned.
You said the 27th of January?
That's a Sunday, right?
I think you're right. Sorry, my calendar put me back to 2018. Boring. Yeah. Got it. Thank you.
Good deal. Any other
Let me give
questions?
you one piece of advice. Do not be the first person to have an auto accident with a streetcar after all your TV commercials.
I agree. Definitely. Definitely.
Yeah, well, I just thought I'd give him that advice, so. All right, any other questions?
Yeah, I've got one. So on opening night, it's running late too, correct?
Yeah, so we have a modified schedule that will allow us to operate until 2 a.m. Christmas or New Year's Eve. So that's an important thing. We've also, in that time, I've glossed over it. There's so many things we've done, but we do have the website for OKC Streetcar Live with a lot of information on there. Very robust FAQ section. So if you get a question that you're not quite sure of, we may have it covered there, and you can sort through them by topic. So definitely, if you have an opportunity to check that out. But those special event schedules, whether it's for Sunday or Thunder event or anything of that nature, we'll be posting those schedules there. Just like with the streetcar, we will have a Christmas Day service and a New Year's Day service where we're not traditionally operating with bus at this time. So those types of things will be posted on the website to provide an update.
We have streetcar service on Christmas and New Year? Holy heck.
Yeah, there's holiday service.
Wow.
All right.
All right.
Any other questions?
Any other questions?
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any items from the trustees before we adjourn to executive session?
I would just like to, I want to say thank you to the staff. Not just the streetcar program, because that is so exciting and so wonderful, and I can't compliment you all enough on the work that you've done, but really the whole staff. We've had a lot of stuff going on, whether it's getting ready for Sunday service, whether it's improving our employment. You know, we had a lot of vacancies there for a while, whether it's the dealing with scooters and bikes and things like that. We've had a lot of things to respond to. And I just want to say thank you publicly. Larry, the grant, it couldn't be more exciting. And I know that you all continue to work on those opportunities too. Customer service is doing great. I just think that the staff has done a wonderful job, and I really appreciate that.
I wanted to add too, thanks to the staff and Larry on the grant, and also thanks to Senator Inhofe for helping us through on that process. And we also received support from Representative Lucas for the grant. So thanks to our Washington team for helping getting that done.
All right. Then we'll adjourn for executive session. we have a motion to adjourn. We are adjourned.